Welcome back to the arrivals at the finish of leg 3 of the Ocean Race Europe. We've already had Merpuri Foundation Racing Team cross the line to take first place in the VO65 and with it the maximum of 7 points. Next up to come through the line in, well, a little under 5 minutes time by our estimation, it's going to be AkzoNobel Ocean Racing Team. And this is how the fleet are sort of laid out at the moment as we go into the VO65s with the IMOCAs a little way behind. AkzoNobel just off the finish line, and then coming up for third place, it's Sailing Poland with Childhood One, potentially going to take fourth, but more on that in just a minute, because as you can see as we come in, AkzoNobel Ocean Racing are just a little way off the finish line. Abby Ehler, as always, is with me. And Abby, some onboard pictures from AkzoNobel. Still dark, still difficult racing, but for this boat, just like we see it with Merpuri Foundation Racing Team, a lot of tacks just off the finish line. The wind on the course seems to be one thing, and then you move half a mile and something completely different.
Yeah, I would love to have been on board if we rolled the clock back to about 4:30 yesterday afternoon when they were the first boat to tack offshore, and they must have seen something that that caused them to go that way, and they currently were lying, I guess they were in 5th position at that point. They've tacked offshore, they've gained massively from it, and here they are rolling in 2nd place, so they'll be really happy with this finish.
Very happy with their finish, and just as you say, very happy because of what's been happening over the last sort of 12 hours or so. Let's just leave them approaching that finish line. We'll come back to them as they get to the line. That 2nd place for them is pretty assured, but this is just a quick snapshot of sort of, I mean, the ducks, the dives, the shuffling of the pack as we've been approaching into that finish line. And I think the key thing is, for anybody wondering why Sailing Poland is not the boat that took 1st place, or at least not in 2nd place, it's because of who went offshore and when. And Abby, I mean, interesting, we've still got that grey line of Childhood One inshore. Sailing Poland kind of halfway between the two, but safe to say that everyone that went offshore has felt the gain now.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the leaders and leading into light air. It's always a difficult position to be in because those behind you will gain from your losses as they see you sailing into lighter patches. They've got more speed, they've got more manoeuvrability, and yeah, they'll make a gain. And this is exactly what's played out here coming into this finish of leg 3.
Incredible to see how tight they are holding on to that result. Tack, 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 all the way into the finish as we go back on board. We're expecting them to be crossing this finish line pretty much any moment. And interestingly, as they were coming into this finish line, as we sort of cut away from them just 2 minutes ago, you know, they were sailing along in some pretty good breeze. I mean, 5-6 knots of wind, and the boat was doing a good 7 knots. And just look at that, it just hits that calm patch. It almost cruelly, as they come across the line there, and a little high five and some celebrations on board, almost cruelly, that last 100 meters, you just need the momentum of the boat to kind of just drift you over that line. It's very, very tricky out there. But Abby, celebrations for AkzoNobel Ocean Racing Team, and I mean, made all the sweeter because this was done in that final 6, 7, maybe 8 hours. I mean, it was a bold move that was made at just the right time, and for Merpuri Foundation Racing Team taking first, now AkzoNobel Ocean Racing Team taking 2nd. These are really good results for 2 top teams that were far from guaranteed.
Yeah, AkzoNobel going into this leg were saying that they were obviously lacking a bit of boat-on-boat speed, but they felt this was going to be their leg just because it was lighter, and tactically they were feeling pretty strong. So it really has played in their favour. They'll be really happy, and going into Saturday's coastal race, I mean, they've got to be in a really strong position to get on that podium.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, isn't it? Because we do have one more point scoring race to go, which will be a coastal. So, you know, quite a few hours of racing and 3 points maximum up for grab. And so it's worth now just taking a look at that overall scoreboard. This is provisional. This is based on the 2 finishing results that we do have. Merpuri Foundation Racing Team taking the maximum of 7 for this. AkzoNobel Ocean Racing taking 6. And then everybody else being ranked as where they are on the water at the moment. So potentially don't expect Sailing Poland to keep those exact points. But the key thing is AkzoNobel Ocean Racing 1 point behind Merpuri Foundation Racing Team. That counts for nothing if AkzoNobel Ocean Racing beat the Portuguese on the water on Saturday. So there we go, on board with the masthead code 0 now furled away, and AkzoNobel Ocean Racing will start to make their way back into the shore. Light winds for them, very tight on the finish. And before we sign off and take another little break before our next finish, let's go back to the tracker and have a look at, see just how long we're going to have to wait for that next finish. And indeed, Abby, I mean, who it's going to be, because when we were covering Merpuri Foundation Racing Team and their finish for first place, we were talking about whether it was going to be Sailing Poland or Childhood One in third, fourth. It looks now like it's going to be Sailing Poland. And in fact, if we pull out wider on the tracker, Childhood One has got another set of problems, because behind these two, we've got Viva Mexico and Amber Sail 2, who are sailing in some pretty nice breeze.
Yeah, I think looking at this, you certainly wouldn't want to be in Childhood's position. We can see from the tracker of AkzoNobel and their path and the way that Sailing Poland and Viva Mexico and Amber Sail, they're obviously in some sort of breeze line that Childhood isn't getting. So things are not looking so good for them right now, but who's to say? Anything could change.
Anything could change, and they're certainly hanging on to that inshore route. Whether it's going to pay or not, that's been their decision. I mean, I'd be surprised if the Austrian Ocean Race Project could overhaul Childhood One, but, you know, I'm going to take that back. I wouldn't actually be surprised with anything, because we've seen it all over this leg, and we're seeing it again in the final few miles. But these are the VO65s. 2 of them finished, 5 of them still to go, and then behind these boats we have the IMOCA 60s coming in, and the bulk of that fleet is a long way back, except for one offshore team Journey. Look at the distance between the German team and then the other 4. 11th Hour Racing at the moment leading that 4, and Linked Out putting in a really strong performance to get up to the front of that pack. But I'd be amazed at the moment if offshore team Germany would lose that. But if that's me jinxing their result, then let me apologise ahead of time. So 2 of the VO65s finished, Merpuri Foundation Racing Team taking the win, and then AkzoNobel Ocean Racing crossing the line in second place. We're going to take a break before we come back on air to follow in, well, what looks like at the moment Sailing Poland, but we'll have to wait and see, and we'll see you soon.